Welcome back. Let's talk about lists of data. When we're writing computer programs or when we're even using computer programs, there's seldom the situation where you're just dealing with a single piece of data. Often we work with groups of similar data that's maybe put into a list of some sort or actions that you apply to lots of elements of the same type. And that's what lists are for when we're working, when we're writing computer programs. You could think of it like maybe an email program where you have a list of recipients. You can just send the email to one recipient, but usually you can add more than one recipient to your email, the email message that you write. And so you've got a list of recipients there, which is a list of email addresses, right? Or even more generic, a list of contacts in your phone. You scroll through them, you can add a new list, a new contact there, list element, as we like to call it, or a list of bookmarked URLs, your favorite bookmarks on your browser. These are all examples of lists of similar data, right? So you've one element is very, very similar to another element. Not that they have the same value. Otherwise, the list wouldn't really make a lot of sense if you've got just the same contact, the same name and the same email address multiple times in your contact list. But what I mean is that the elements themselves are pretty similar. Like the recipients in your email, these are all email addresses or all strings, text variables, right? Text data types, or the list of bookmarked URLs. They are similar because they're all more web addresses, internet addresses, starting with HTTPS, probably www, and you know what, right? They all are similar data. And another example would be a list of posts in your favorite social network, like Instagram or Facebook or whatever. It's also a list of certain type. And we have in programming languages a sort of a built-in structure that handles these lists in a very basic manner, but still it's important to know the name that this structure has. And this is called an array of data, an array of a certain variable type, of a certain data type, like an array of integer numbers. Could be, I don't know, the lottery numbers you could store in an array of a certain size. Here in Austria, it's like 6 numbers. So you would have an array with 6 elements, and every element is of the same type. In that example, of the type integer number. Or I don't know, you could have an array of names, an array of email addresses, an array of bookmarked URLs. And there's ways in programming languages to add stuff to that array and to read it out again, to exchange certain elements in the array, maybe even to sort an array by a certain criteria, maybe alphabetically from A to Z or numerically from the lowest element to the highest element. So these are all kinds of operations that you can apply to this group of data, to this array, to the value stored in that array. So I invite you in your day-to-day life to identify what pieces of arrays, what pieces of lists can you recognize there? How are they ordered? Maybe you're looking at your bank statement. You could think of the bank statement as a list of single entries, of single line items. And the question is, how are they ordered? And what makes up such an element here in the list? What kind of elements does it have? Probably a date and some kind of description and some kind of monetary value, right? Think of your contact lists on your phone. How can you add elements to that list? How can you remove elements to that list? Can you think of examples of lists that you're sort of interacting with in your day-to-day life where they're kind of static? You can read them and you can take a look at the list, but you cannot really add new elements. Or maybe you can add to them, but you cannot remove to them. right? So think about examples of lists, of arrays, of groups of similar data in your day-to-day life when you're interacting with any kind of computer program, and try to identify what makes up that list, and what's the conditions that a list element can be added. Can I control that? Is that somehow controlled through some external process? Can I remove elements from that list? Can I order them? How can I interact with that list of data? Try to check that out in your day-to-day life.